What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk. We've had the biggest breaking news in a long time that Erik Ten Hag has been sacked. The 54-year-old Dutchman was informed of this decision this morning, and Ruud van Nistelrooy has been asked to take charge on an interim basis with the rest of the staff remaining in his position. Obviously, this comes after another loss to West Ham. That was, one win in 8, with 14th in the league, yet to have a win in Europe, and just... yeah, it's been an absolute shit show since the start of the season. So one can almost say you could see this coming. You could see the writing on the wall, Sam. But have they pulled the trigger earlier than you thought?
Yeah, a lot earlier. Way earlier. I thought he was here until minimum the November international break. I didn't see him sacking him at this point in the season. I thought he could even go until Christmas, to be honest with you. And I go to an appointment this morning. I'm on my way back, and you drop in the chat that, and I'm just like, wow, Fabrizio's talking about it must be real. And then literally, I think 30 seconds later, he's gone. I was like, Jesus. So yeah, I'm not in shock because I expected him to be sacked. I'm in shock with the timing of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's almost like you've seen him be patient after each game. After the Tottenham game, for example, there was a lot of, there's people calling for his head. Then after the Liverpool game, there was people calling for his head. Even last season, after Crystal Palace, there was people calling for his head. And it was like, no, don't let him go. Don't let him go. And then to come after this West Ham one, I mean, it's one of those. I mean, I was listening to a podcast last night, and, the Gary Neville one, and he was like, Man United, you can't be 14th in the league. It's ridiculous. And we were saying, even on the post-match preview, like, no other manager would ever get that kind of leeway. It's ridiculous for a club of Manchester United stature, sorry. The thing is now, it's like, okay, well, you've got Ruud in as an interim. You've got other ones who are being discussed at the moment. You might get the initial manager bounce, but again, it's almost like, how have we ended up in this situation? I suppose it's £1 million question, isn't it?
I think they were obviously not convinced with him, were they? When they came in. Obviously, they came in partly way through a season. I think the deal got done Christmas Day, or was it Boxing Day?
20 for INEOS, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the 24th.
Christmas Eve, wasn't it?
Christmas Eve, that was it.
Yeah.
But then they had to be ratified. It's like 6 weeks when it was like mid-February roundabouts is when they actually got control. And obviously, in that point, we were in a shit run of form, and we were like, I don't know where we were in the league at the point, but he ended up finishing 8th. And then you thought, if he loses this FA Cup final, which everybody, I think, maybe bar Brian Casey in the chat, I think everybody thought we're losing this cup final, and he's gone. And I think he won the cup final, and that complicated things for him. I think they were like, the fan support's behind him now. If we sack him, it's a very unpopular decision. We're brand new into this club. It's tricky. So I think they stuck with him, but they knew they had to back him because he was in the final year of his deal. So what did they do? They didn't offer him a new contract. They just opted to activate that 1 year plus thing, didn't they? That was already in his contract, which said to me, we don't back you fully because you're not our guy, but we're going to give you enough time to try and turn things around. And then that's what they did. And then they've given him how many games now? 9 games, I think, plus 3 Europa League, 3 Europa League games and a Carabao Cup game, and we've looked good in a Carabao Cup game, and the results just haven't been there. So I think they've gone, this is not our guy. We didn't think he was going to be able to turn it around, and it looks like he isn't, and they've pulled the trigger. And I think we all said as well beforehand, didn't we, when Van Nistelrooy come in, we could see him being interim at some point during this. Yeah. And there it is.
Literally, we did. Anyone who's seen our big season preview, and this isn't about, we were right or any of that kind of bollocks, but Aaron did say on that preview, I could see Ruud van Nistelrooy being the interim by December, and it's even before that. We're in October, and we've already made the decision. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are happy about this decision. I know there's a lot of people who are fuming with his style of play, some of his press conferences, and all that kind of stuff, and I get it. And there will be people that are sat there feeling like it's Christmas today, that he's finally gone, and we can get another manager in, and the interim's come in. But ultimately, I want to give him respect, Sam, because I think, look, the football at times, especially this season, and last year, has been absolutely shocking. But you can't overlook things like the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. 2 trophies in 2 seasons is amazing. No. But it just never it never felt like he was gonna turn that boat around today. That was the issue. It always had this kind of doom and gloom and it would come out and be like, well, we played good for 20 minutes. The ref was on our side, all this kind of stuff. It never had that feeling, did it? Like internally, I don't know about you, but in my core, I never felt like he was going to turn this around. I just felt like we was waiting for the inevitable, effectively.
I think like every manager post Fergie, we've been a team of moments, haven't we? Like we've never been a team of like we've put a run together and we've challenged and we've looked good for an entire season. It's never happened like post Fergie. It's always been that 14-game run under Ollie where we like think, and then the next season fell apart. Louis van Gaal, there was stability, but again, just fell apart towards the end. Jose, he imploded after not being backed, and that fell apart. And there's never been a moment. And then each manager, there's been a moment where you're like, I like this team. I like how we're playing. FA Cup final under Louis van Gaal, that 14 run in Paris under Ollie, and beating Pep several times. Jose, the Europa League final. Like, there's been all these moments, but there's never been a consistent thing where you've gone, I can see what they're doing, I can see what they're building, and we're working towards something. Whereas if you look at any other manager, you can see that. You can see it under Arteta. It was poor results, but they was building something, and then they've got somewhere. Jurgen Klopp, poor results, and his finish date stuff, but they were building something, and eventually they got there. And I think you're seeing that now. The results of that of Klopp, Slot's come in, Arne Slot's come in, and he's been able to just glide in because Jurgen Klopp built this thing up, ready to go. Whereas every other manager has left United in a worse state for the next manager, and we've had to restart all over again. And I feel like that's what's happening again. But hopefully, with INEOS now in place, we now have a building block that the next manager who does come in is going to have a set structure, and we'll be able to build upon that and finally get something going. Because if not, I don't see how we can keep continuing this and not end up eventually getting relegated. Do you know what I mean? Like the way we're going, it's not sustainable.
I'm going to get into everyone's comments in a moment. There's loads of you joining the chat. Get your feelings in about this manager. What's next for Manchester United? How you see Ruud doing in the meantime? Any thoughts and feelings? Obviously, get them in and I'll read them out very, very shortly. I'm just going to read out the official statement. Erik Ten Hag has left his role as Manchester United's men's first team manager. Erik was appointed in April 2022 and led the club to 2 domestic trophies, winning the Carabao Cup in 2023 and the FA Cup in 2024. We are grateful to Erik for everything he has done during his time with us and wish him well for the future. Ruud van Nistelrooy will take charge of the team as interim head coach, supported by the current coaching team, whilst the permanent head coach is recruited. Now, the ones that are being sounded out, I mean, we had loads of news this morning, Sam, from your Alex Crooks and all these kind of journalists around United, saying basically that Xavi's being sounded out. Nagelsmann was a name that was mentioned. For me, I don't know about you. Look, it's probably a few weeks, months in the pipeline before this happens. But Xavi, for me, doesn't feel like... I can't see Xavi coming in with his team, the way he plays, and getting them to play. But we've seen it, that kind of Barca style. I can't see these players being equipped to do that.
It's like people who are asking for Zidane. Like, it's just... That's the wrong manager. It's the wrong manager for this team. Like, these guys are not the managers you bring in to build and do something with. They're not the type of managers to come in with a disjointed team and get them clicking and get them working. Like they don't operate like that. The one guy who could have done that, and obviously he's not available, is Thomas Tuchel. He comes into broken teams and he fixes them. You saw it with Chelsea. You saw it with PSG. You saw it with Dortmund. You saw it with Bayern for a while anyway. He could have done that, but I don't think Xavi's that guy. I think he's a good manager and he worked well at Barcelona until he had an ultimately fallen out with him. But I don't think he's the guy. Nagelsmann excites me. If that name's being chucked about, that really excites me. That's a really interesting appointment. Whether we could get him or not and pry him out for that German national team contract, I don't know.
How do you convince him, Sam? How do you go to do you want to leave your national team that you manage?
And you're doing well.
Manage this shit show. You know what I mean?
And he's doing well at Germany as well. Like he's got them like I was listening to a podcast and we were talking about how Germany national fans feel better now. They feel like they've got a sense of pride. Yeah. Almost back in it, which why would you leave that and then come to, like you said, a shit show at Manchester United? So unless they've got a bucket full of money to offer him, which I doubt it because we're under FFP constraints, because obviously that was the worry, wasn't it? Sacking Erik Ten Hag because it cost us a certain amount and that kind of stuff. So I don't see a coach being appointed this season. personally. I think he'll be Ruud to the end of the season now.
That's interesting. Until the end of the season, because that's quite a while
Who's
for the
gonna?
interim.
Can you name anybody who's going to be willing to come in?
No. I mean, that's what I'm saying. These are all reports at the minute. I mean, there's just a report coming in now. Sources in Germany, United are going to try their luck and approach Julian Nagelsmann, unknown what the response will be. He's well liked among the board. I like Nagelsmann. I think
I do. I like him.
I think he's a very good coach. I think Xavi's a good coach as well, but I just think it's always tricky mid-season when you've seen it before. Like I said, you may get that manager bounce. You might
no
get
transfer
that
window. No transfer window, no preseason to work with the players, nothing.
It's difficult. It's extremely difficult. But obviously what they'll be asking for is they'll be like, someone to come in and we need to get back into Champions League contention. We need someone to get this ship going. And it's a difficult job. And the amount of managers that have been here now and tried it and failed, or not failed, but not lived up to what we expected to get us back to the top of European football and Premier League football. It's a tough ask, man. So they need to get this decision right. Alexander Cortel says, we play you on Sunday. I take it as a Chelsea fan. Andy Williams saying, I'm going to the Chelsea game. At least now I can look forward to the game. Andy, I bet when you heard this news, you in particular was jumping out of your seat because I know you're not a fan of Eric Ten Hag.
He's popped the champagne this morning.
He's definitely popped the champagne. Maz saying, this is the first manager I've ever wanted out of the club. It's a shame on a personal level, but he had to go. This is the team he hand-built, and it's winning nothing. Kirk saying, I don't think Ruud's the man to lead us to the end of the season. Daryl saying, I always wanted him to be a success, but after the results recently, I couldn't see the team or results improving. He doesn't deserve some of the hate being thrown at him. I would agree with that, Daryl. Pravav in the chat as well saying, don't know where we go from here. UTFR, we need a total clear out, including Ruud van Nistelrooy and the rest. Aaron's in the chat, big up Aaron, saying we're not left with a load of players brought in for a manager who should have been gone in the summer. Who do we think takes it next? Pulls to the end of the season. Pulis, I think he was saying, to the end of the season. Long ball to steady the ship.
My God.
I knew this was coming, and it's about time. Look, I was just about to go live with pros and cons. That's not the whole show that I had set up.
That's
to discuss the manager, to discuss everything in depth, where we're at. I was literally, my opening lines were basically, if we continue on this trajectory,
he's going to get sacked.
We've played, not just that, but we've played 25% of the season. If we replicate our form, what we're doing now, we would finish on around 44 points. We've won 1 in 8, 14th in the league, and we've just been beat by West Ham, who've conceded around 23 goals. It's untenable. That's the way I was going to open the show. And just before I'm about to go live, it's literally always at the most
like 5 minutes, wasn't it? 5 minutes before you there.
Always the most inconvenient times. Fabrizio's like, it's been discussed internally, and then literally 5 minutes later, Ornstein's like, yeah, he's been sacked. Like, fucking hell, right, never mind. This whole show just fucking thrown in the bin. But I get it. Some people are happy about it, but I do think there needs to be a balance here, Sam, of respect as well, because he has, he's won 2 trophies with us. We have had good moments, the Liverpool game, City in the FA Cup final, of course, as well. But even, not just Premier League football, look at Europe, how bad that record is. It's awful, isn't it?
The good thing was, he's a cup manager. And he's won his 2 trophies in 2 years. And I think we can all agree the Liverpool game and the City final are 2 of the best moments on post-Fergie that we've ever had. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me personally, because I was there at Liverpool, you were there at Liverpool, and watching that City final that none of us expected to win was 2 of the best moments I've ever experienced as a United fan post-Fergie. The only other one I could compare to it is Paris. That's the only other one that sticks in my head. And I think you have to respect him for that. I like him as a guy as well. I really, really like him. I think he's a likable person. I think he's a great tactician, but he's stubborn to a point of fault. And that's what's cost him his job in the end. He's sticking to this principle, sticking to these philosophies that clearly weren't working, and he's not willing to give it up, and he's ended up failing. Now, can you blame some of the players for chucking him under the bus? I think you can. I think the players not being able to finish their chances in that first half against West Ham has been a similar theme throughout this season and last season. And I think you can't blame the manager for that. But then there are things that you can blame the manager for. And I like him a lot. Besides Ollie in that 14-game run, he's the manager I connected with the most. Yeah. I really connected with him. I didn't really connect with Jose because I thought he'd be here for 2-3 years. Maybe he wins as a title, but then he's going to fuck off. Lou Van Gaal bored me to tears. Yeah. Absolutely bored me to tears. I couldn't stand it. Moyes, I got behind him because Fergie said to, but after a couple of months, it was clear this guy's just not. It's too big for him. Ten Hag and Ollie were like guys I connected with, but yeah, it's a shame, man, because I feel a bit gutted and I feel a bit sad about it because I really liked him and I wanted him to succeed, but at the same time, like you said, all those stats you've just gone through, all that results and stuff like that, it's a results game at the end of the day, and he hasn't got them, and he's been backed. He's had 3 years and he's not got it, and sometimes that's football. Even if you like the guy, sometimes it's a cruel sport, man. It's a really cruel sport.
It's interesting, because the overarching thing of this now is this is the 6th chapter since Fergie left that we've been in this book that we're trying to create, and it's ended in the same way every single time. All those managers you just mentioned, Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, all there. Rangnick when he came in, obviously awful. Ten Hag when he came in had 3 seasons, another £600 million spent. This is like a massive, massive issue. It is the toughest job in world football.
Yes,
no doubt about that. You know, how many different types of managers? Like Ten Hag was the fan favorite, people would say, because he's either Poch, and we were discussing it at the time on this channel, Poch or Ten Hag. And it was like, right, the fans, we've got a feeling about this guy. Look at the football he's playing in the Eredivisie. Look what he's done. If he can bring that style over to Man United, then yeah. Little did we know that he came in, he was like, I can't play this style. And we're like, right, okay. Yeah. No worries. We'll stick with this transitional style or whatever. But not only just that, I always think when a manager goes, look, a lot of it is on him. Like I said, you will get a manager bounce with Ruud, and there will be improvements naturally because we've seen this story again before. But players as well. You look at that game against West Ham. I know you kind of referenced it before, but the missed chances in that game, my God, the players have thrown him under a bus in that game in particular, because that should be 2-0, 3-0, 4-0 at least, and then the ref decision as well. I'm sure Ten Hag sat there fuming, but ultimately, you have to look at it as a collective as well, don't you? How we've done this season. It's not just that game in isolation. Some of the tactics at times have been so fucking questionable.
The measure of success for a manager is progression in the league. And year after year, we've got worse, I would argue.
Yep.
I finished 3rd in the first year, finished 8th last year, and we're currently 14th, the worst start in our history, and the worst start ever under like a manager. So it's hard to sort of justify your job with 2 trophies when you've got that sort of form. And like you said, the players need to take equal responsibility because they're not putting the ball in the back of the net. The manager can't do that for him. He can set him up and he can do the tactics and what have you and select team. But if you're not putting the ball in the back of the net, that's not the manager's fault. And we saw that all last season. So many players just not performing and not stepping up to the plate. Now, I think it's a very naive from Ten Hag to go, I'm going to buy Højlund last year. I'm going to put all my faith that he's going to be a goal scorer when he's never scored more than, 11 goals he scored for
in the league.
Atalanta. Yeah. So that's a very big thing. And then again this summer, you go, I'm not going to go out and get a big striker. I'm going to get Joshua Zirkzee, who again is not a goal scorer and he's not going to score you 20 goals a season.
Well, is that on INEOS as well, Sam? Because
that's at INEOS as well.
You know, we bring young players in. We'll have that patience with you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But clearly it wasn't their guy, because otherwise they would have given him a new contract, wouldn't they? They wouldn't have just operated this extension thing.
Yeah.
So clearly they want their guy. And I think, did he have like more in his current contract? Because they wanted to get a new, there was a thing going on. I think Laurie Whitwell mentioned it. They wanted him to sign a new deal, but they wanted to take some clauses out of his contract in terms of transfer power.
Yeah, vetoes and that. Yeah.
Vetoes and that. And then they couldn't do that, which is why they activated the option, which I think is why he's probably got more players in than INEOS probably would have liked. Like INEOS have probably wanted to have gone for a more proven goal scorer. I'm not saying Ivan Toney, but he was available for a decent price and he was there and he's Premier League proven. You could have gone and got him. People like that. And I just think, there's a lot of fault on all sides here. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, the manager is the one who takes the bullet most of the time. The players are not going to take the bullet. The INEOS are not going to take the bullet. The manager is the one who ends up taking it. And unfortunately, that's what's happened.
The issue I currently take with this at the moment is 20 days ago, I believe Tuchel agreed the contract with England, right?
Yes.
I think 20 days ago, or before that, sorry, you could have made the decision, after the Spurs game, whenever that was, to bring in someone like that. But and I know I sound like a broken record, and I know I repeat myself, and we've both said it as well before on here. Look at everything we are craving as a club at the moment. European record we keep referencing, clean sheets that we, might have 4 this season under Onana. I don't know how. but the goals that we'd be conceding, 3 against Porto, 3 against Liverpool, 3 against Spurs, defensively and off the ball, we're one of the worst teams to play against. Look at his record against big...
Mentality as well.
Mentality, yeah. Shocking. Record against big clubs, shocking. Tuchel, tick, 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 tick. Now, people will probably go to comments to say, long-term, it's not what INEOS see as a vision or whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Bring him in for now, for a couple of seasons. Let's get back to winning ways. And if you make the decision in 2-3 years' time when your candidate does become available, your long-term candidate, if it's a young coach, let's say like a McKenna who's improved or what have you, then you can bring him in. But I'm just saying, this is another season now. If we do stick with Ruud until the end of the season, results might upturn initially. But again, you're writing off another season, aren't you? That's the issue.
Because you've got to qualify for Europe now. You've had how many? You've had 3 draws we've had in Europe. It's not good enough. Like, you're not going to win the Europa League. You continue playing like that. So that's a trophy we could probably write off, which is also an entry into the Champions League that you're probably going to have to write off.
Yep.
We beat Barnsley in the Carabao Cup, which, no offense to Barnsley, you should be beaten, and you should be beaten handily. And now we've got Leicester. And in the league, it's just been terrible result after terrible result after terrible result, terrible performance consistently. It can't go on like that. And I think whether Ruud gets a bounce or not, which maybe he does, how long is that bounce going to last? Is it going to last all season? Are we going to just continue this season? Or is it going to be 5-6 games and then we're just going to go back to where we were? Like, do you know what I mean? We need something longer term than just a straight manager bounce. Now, I know he had some fallings out at Feyenoord and there was reasons and stuff like that. And it seems like he's very similar to Ten Hag in terms of his stubbornness, his mentality, the way he wants to play, that kind of stuff. Is it that much of a change to have him in charge? I don't think it is. Maybe we get a bounce, maybe we don't. But I don't think he's the option. I don't think he's the right guy for the job.
One thing I'll say is what I can see. I think there's more of a connection with Ruud, isn't there? I've mentioned this before on this channel that there seems to be... my throat's going... I'm not tearing up, I promise you, about Ten Hag. But there seems to be a communication thing, don't they, where it's like it comes across a little bit like a head teacher, whereas Ruud seems to have that human level connection with the players. But look, again, we've spoken about this, but if you've watched Ruud van Nistelrooy at PSV, he is a similar style. It's very transitional, very direct, heavy use of wingers. He relies on key players, and when them key players aren't there, like he did with Xavi Simons, Gakpo, he struggles. He doesn't have a plan B. Sometimes Ten Hag doesn't have a plan B. So I think the players, Aaron said it there in the chat, it'd be interesting to see how the players react on Wednesday. I'm sure they'll probably go and beat Leicester 3-0. And I'm sure they'll be like, everyone like, get him in and da-da-da and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I would suggest caution with that approach because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a prime example of that, isn't it?
I don't think he's INEOS's guy for the future. I don't, because if he was, I think they probably would have just sacked Ten Hag and brought him in initially.
But do you think they brought him in, obviously with the thought of, well, we're extending it,
Yeah, I think it's probably a possibility. They probably brought him in going, if we do let him go, he can step in for the season while we look for a new guy. So obviously if they're making an approach for Nagelsmann, they've spoken to Sebastian Hoeneß in the summer, he turned us down. Amarin's been mentioned, Xavi's been mentioned. So obviously they've got all these guys that they've spoken to or they've had talks with. Tuchel, obviously, but he's now not an option. I think they're going to use... Ruud's going to be the guy to sort of like take us through until they find that guy that they want, whether it takes all season, whether it's midpoint in the season. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think that's going to be the option for now. And I think they're going to try and figure out who they want to bring in permanently. But Nagelsmann's the option. I'll ask you, would you want Ruud as the permanent manager, or is there a guy, Tuchel's off the table now, who's the guy you want to bring in and go forward?
I think it tells you everything when there isn't one obvious name. I mean, you could just look to our chat at the moment, people talking about Amarin, people talking about Southgate, people talking about Potter, people talking about... There isn't like one obvious option. No. To be honest, out of all of them that's been linked at the minute, because obviously Tuchel is off the table now, so I can't choose him, I would probably go Nagelsmann, to be honest with you. I probably would. But getting him out of Germany...
tricky.
Is one going to cost a lot of fucking money, I would imagine. I mean, they just paid Ten Hag £14 million off as well, don't forget that, because to sack him. So I don't know if I see it difficult, man. And you might be right. Maybe Ruud might stay to the end of the season because it's a lot easier bringing a manager in when you have a pre-season, you have a summer transfer window, and they can work with the players. Or maybe they're waiting for someone to be out of a job. We had Muppeteers on, didn't we? Who said they really like Xavi Alonso, and there was a couple of others. I don't know. I don't know at this moment because there isn't a right option for Manchester United. I think we've seen that over the past couple of years. So INEOS, good luck. That's what I'll say to him.
I know that he said about Xabi Alonso. I just don't see Xabi Alonso ever coming to United. No. I don't see it happening. I've been looking into that Sebastian Hoeneß at Stuttgart. He looks like an interesting manager. But if he did turn us down in the summer, that's not a great look, is it? Like going back for him and going, do you want to come now? Like we sat the manager. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not a good look. Like the power's in their hands. So the Xavi one's interesting. I don't know what the thinking is there. I don't see it.
I know Omar Barada has a connection with him. There's that kind of Spanish link. He knows him from Barcelona as well. I
don't know what they expect him to do. I don't know what he can't implement his style
as well.
Yeah, I don't like. That's a strange appointment to me. If they do that, that makes me question INEOS's decision making. If they do that, because I don't see what he does to sort of steady this ship.
Yeah, crazy news if you are just joining. Quite a few of you in the chat. Erik Ten Hag has been sacked by INEOS. Ruud will take over in the meantime as the interim manager whilst they look at options to bring in. More and more reaction coming in. I'll read that out shortly. But Chivy saying, long overdue. Would have loved for him to leave on a high after the final. Sad the way it ended, but it had to be done. Jeff Masson saying, I'm gutted, man. Dino saying, thank you, Erik Ten Hag, for the cups. Please no Southgate. Lewis saying,
he's done. Southgate's not happening.
Southgate, he's already announced on it for a year. Maybe they'll wait. Maybe they'll do interim until the end of the year and bring Southgate in.
No.
Players to blame as well. So many average rats in that squad. Very nice from Lewis there. I'd go for Amorim over any of the managers being linked. Dave Wilson saying it's been a matter of when, not if, over the last couple of months and seasons. McMillan in the chat, pick up McMillan saying Amorim won't leave mid-season. Charlie saying a manager's job is to motivate and give players confidence. That has not been at United. This was coming and should have happened in the summer. INEOS gave him a chance and he has crashed the bus. Sorry, so many comments. I don't see Ruud as a permanent. They wouldn't be sounding out as many managers as they have if he was. Anthony Black saying, bring back Ole. Oh, that is something.
No.
I've not heard that before.
I love Ole so much, but no.
Yeah.
That's not the answer.
Southgate will kill the club. We've got Michelle Hume saying about time, and David Harrington saying Marco Silva is a better manager than Thomas Frank. Silva teams play some good football, but I don't want him or Frank. And then Toby Sham saying bring in start coach. Yeah, look, interesting. You said you'd go for a Nagelsmann, Sam. Is that correct?
Yeah, Nagelsmann.
Do you think he's got the go on?
Sorry, you know Danny Higginbottom used to play. He's a professional footballer. Yeah. He's a good commentator as well.
Yeah.
He's just put rinse and repeat at Man United. Difficult to argue with the decision, but the problem is the lack of top class managers around. Whoever comes in takes over a group of players bought by a few different managers. Team has lacked identity for so long due to constant change.
Yeah.
That sums it up quite well, that, doesn't it?
It's true. It almost feels like an impossible. At this point, they might as well just put the job description out on LinkedIn. And you might find a manager there who's going to do like a better job. I'm internally laughing because did you know that massive account that was Ten Hag's Army on Twitter?
Has he changed it to Ruud?
He changed it Ruud Reds. He changed the profile picture to the disgrace. And he's not even on the plane yet, and he's changed it to just felt one.
He's not even emptied his office yet, Ten Hag. He's not got his pictures.
Oh my
nothing,
goodness me!
I know, mate.
Just can you read out the chat, Sam? I've just got a phone call coming in.
Yeah. So what are we going to chat? Matt Millen, YouTube. Hello. We've got Motta from Juve. Brian Cal. I was almost started watching the cricket, but not United playing. Charlie, it sounds like Xavi will be the next manager, and he'll bring in a couple of former United players to be part of his coaching staff. Dan Errington, United need indeed you do. Nice, love it. Charlie, I'm enjoying his talks with Manchester United. Xavi is asked to be assisted by well-known former players, United players. The name has not yet been confirmed. Interesting. It's from Sky Sports and Sacha Voyaleri. Don't know who that is, but That's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm currently live.
Yeah,
at the
guys,
moment,
get
but probably
in
in the
who
next
you would
15,
pick. Like I've
20 minutes,
picked.
I'll be free. So
I
you're just
think
gonna
Julian
call it, yeah.
Nagelsmann would be a good option. I think Nick agrees with that. Obviously, he wanted Tuchel, but that's not an option. Who would you guys, if you guys had the
No,
book
I'm on
and you want to
YouTube.
bring in a manager,
Discussing it.
who you
Yeah,
picking?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
put in the chat who you're picking, and we'll sort of we'll
Imagine.
discuss each option. There's obviously Xavi's been mentioned. Nagel's
Yeah,
been,
on this
been
number, yeah.
mentioned. Who else is Big Sam's trending on Twitter, which is funny. That's fucking hilarious.
Right.
Thomas Frank's obviously been mentioned.
Okay,
Ruben
no
Amarin's
problem.
been mentioned. Who are you picking? Give us your names. Give us your thoughts. Who you think?
Shocked,
Xabi Alonso
but
was
at the
obviously
same time,
a
it
big
had to happen
name,
with
but
the
I
results
don't see that
was
happening.
ongoing.
Former Liverpool guy, and he clearly wants the Real Madrid job. I think. Dino has put go all out for Klopp. Chuck the buck at him. Macmillan's put Gasperini and Motto would be my picks. Altigang,
problem.
Ikineng.
All right, bye.
Sorry if I've mispronounced that. We should go for Portugal's manager, Roberto Martinez. Don't agree with that. Do not agree with that at all. But yeah, chuck the bucket at him. I don't know if we've got the money, Dino, to be honest with you, to chuck money at people like that. I mean, if we did, then great. Let's go after people like that. But I just don't think we've got the money to do that. We all good?
I would, yeah. Radio just rang me. I was like, you probably know why we're ringing. You don't? Yeah, I went. Yeah. Ten Hag by any chance? He was like, yeah. Can we speak to you? I was like, yeah. No worries. Yeah, sorry, where we at? Sorry, my bed's all over the place.
I've read all the comments and I just asked people who they would go for. So Dino's put he'd go all out for Klopp, just chuck money at him. I'd love that, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Altigang said Portugal's manager. That's Roberto Martinez, right?
Yeah. Not for me.
No,
not for me.
Andy Black said Ollie for me. Thinks he'll do a better job. He didn't, mate. He was manager. He didn't do a good job. Chivy said he wants Xavi. So Chivy wants Xavi.
Not convinced. I'm really, really not convinced. Look, there's going to be debates back and forth about this. I mean, the fact that I don't know who it was you referenced before saying that there isn't a world-class manager, I don't think, at the moment who can go and do it. I mean, someone talks about Klopp. I mean, fucking hell, imagine bringing him in. Talk about making a controversial decision. My God.
Oh, just to boil the piss of the Scousers would be fun, though, wouldn't it? That would be fun.
It would never ever feel. Yeah,
never happen.
It would never feel right. It would never feel right. But yeah, I don't know. I feel weird, like mixed emotions at the minute because I'm like, it needed to happen. I'm not saying I'm happy it's gone is the wrong way to kind of describe it, but it feels a bit like a relief because obviously we're emotionally deeply connected to this club, and when you're seeing how we've been performing over the since the start of the season, you're absolutely baffled, aren't you? And just like emotionally a wreck because you're like, why the fuck do we have to keep watching this week in week out? So I'm relieved that it's like almost right there is a change, but because you can't. Yeah, the decision's been made, but because you can't foresee what's coming over the next couple of months, you're still in limbo as well. So now we have to kind of trust INEOS to make a good decision to bring in the next manager. Because if it fails again after another 2 seasons, it almost feels like it's never going to happen, is it? We're never going to return.
It's like, how much money do we have to spend until like we get the right thing? Do you know what I mean? Like it's billions and billions of pounds at this point, and we've got what to show for it? A Europa League, an FA Cup, and a Carabao Cup. 2 FA Cups and a Carabao Cup. It's not good enough for the amount of money we spent. Billions. Should be winning with league titles with that amount of money spent and fucking Champions Leagues.
Yeah,
and we haven't. Like, it's just not good enough. I've just seen Aaron saying get Inzaghi from Inter. What do you think about Inzaghi?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I like Inzaghi. I like the way he sets Inter Milan up. He's a different kind of coach. I think when I first saw the links with him, it was like a good few weeks. I think it was like not the last international break. It was the one before.
Yeah,
I liked it because his tactical approach is really, really good, and I think I'm sure United fans will probably agree with this. Watching us this season, it's like, what is the tactics? What is the style of play? Why can't we do that? There's no mixed signals or anything with Inzaghi. You know how he's going to set up. You know how he's going to play. And I think we need that kind of identity. But I don't know. I look at United now as a whole, and I was going to mention this on the pros and cons that I was going to do. It's like we only seem to do things in moments and spells. So, like, for example, with Ten Hag, West Ham, first half, we touched on it, didn't we? Great. Chance creation, great. The way tempo, everything good. Didn't really concede a chance. A good first half, and then second half, West Ham were a better team. Under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it was like we almost had to go behind to then bring it back, didn't we? Do you remember how many times it was like, oh, well, we'll probably lose this half, we'll concede, and then they'll score 2 in the second half. Yeah. Under Ragnick, we had the 45 minutes of the Gegenpress, didn't we? Moments, spells. You can go through every single coach, even though it's a different profile of players. It's still like, we can only play for 20 minutes or a half. You can never get that full
moments,
90 minutes. It's
moments.
Weird.
We're a team of moments, whether that's in game or whether that's through a season. We'll have like one-off games where we'll get a result that nobody expected us to get, or there'll be moments in periods of games where we'll play really well, but we can't do anything. Like Crystal Palace, I thought we played really well at first half, and then second half fell apart. West Ham played really well, fell apart second half. It's just a consistent issue. There seems to be no consistency and no sort of like an identity. Like the Danny Higginbotham says, no identity about this team. No identity at all. Like under Fergie, you knew exactly how we were going to play, you knew exactly what was going to happen. Fight to the end, never give up, never say die, counter-attack, front foot, attack football. That was Fergie. Under these managers, I don't know what our identity is anymore. I really don't.
No. The style of play as well, it wasn't sustainable, is it? I mean, you look at Postecoglou, for example, how attacking he is. It's great. It's probably better than what we're playing at the minute. We saw that at Old Trafford. But I don't think you can ever win a league with that. I don't. I mean, you've seen... There's a couple of different styles in the Premier League now. You've got, the main contenders, Slot, Pep, and Arteta, and they are different in their own ways. Arteta's going more down the Mourinho route now, in a bit of dark arts, very rigid, but he'll get the job done. Pep, you know what you're going to get with Pep, and Slot has slightly tweaked Klopp's system and is a bit more measured in his approach. But you can see them long term and how effective they are in Europe as well, being successful. I never felt like that with Ten Hag. It was like, yeah, you've won trophies and it can work in cups, but in the league, ultimately, let's go and win it. I don't think you will ever win, especially the Premier League, with that style, with the competition, the level of competition that you've got, especially in the top 10.
There is no style.
No, but I mean, like, attacking, transition, quick. It never felt like it was sustainable, did it?
It's just... But the thing was, he was principled in a way, he sticks to stuff, and he was stubborn with that. But you can see he went into survival mode so many times because he knew his style wasn't going to get the result.
Yeah.
So to save his job, he went into survival mode. You saw it against Villa and stuff. Like, that's not consistent. If you want to progress a team and you want to sort of advance a team, you need to make tweaks and tactical changes to advance, not tweaks and tactical changes to not concede or save a job. Like, that's not how you progress a team. And then he was stuck between these two things. He wanted to influence his style and stuff, which was naive, and wasn't willing to make adjustments to make it work. And then when it came down, I need to get a result here, I need to not get beaten, he'd switched to pragmatic completely, and it just switched away from his style completely. You don't see Slot doing that. You don't see Pep doing that. You don't see Arteta doing that. They make tactical changes based on their philosophy. And I think that's the difference with there. And I think had he made those tactical changes last season, might be in a better position this season, but he just stuck with it, didn't he? And just didn't tweak it.
Interesting when reports coming in from Spain that there's a big journalist, Galen Balahue, who everyone would have heard of before, who's well connected, especially when it comes to like Barcelona, saying Xavi's not heard from United. His idea of a sabbatical year and then starting a new project has not changed. So listen, Sam, you might be right. It might be Ruud for until the end of the season. It feels like unknown, doesn't it? I really don't know what's going to happen now over the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping, even if it's initial, and this might sound desperate, that we get a bit of a bounce and there's a bit of an upturn and players start scoring. I'll also be a little bit pissed off because I'm like, oh, here we go again. Someone new's come in and you decided to play and decided to start scoring goals and converting chances. That will annoy me a bit. But I don't think we care, will we, if we start winning games?
That's what it comes down to. Fans are very forgiving of anybody. If you win games and you get results and you're exciting and you're playing well, fans don't care who it is. Like, they don't care who we don't care who starts, we don't care who plays, we don't care who the manager is. If you get results and you play well and you entertain us, that's it. That's all we need.
Yeah, agreed. Dino Lewis saying we took Barada, Ashworth, Wilcox. Now we're looking seriously like a big club. I think give Klopp a year light, and he wants to come in the summer. I don't think Klopp will ever manage again due to his health. Even if Klopp does manage again, there's more chance of me getting the job than Klopp doing Liverpool dirty like that. You're sure Ten Hag is a footballer?
I don't know. This source is very very sort of dodgy. But Xavi is not among the candidates to replace Eric Ten Hag as a Manchester United manager. It is Richard Martin who writes for Goal. So take it.
Yeah,
Pinch of salt,
it's
you know
one of
what I mean?
those. I'm
And
sure. Go on.
I've just seen Chris Wheeler as well from the Daily Mail saying players were told about Ten Hag sacking the same time the official announcement was made this morning. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Look, what you're gonna have now is a media frenzy. You're gonna have a storm.
Yes.
You're gonna have every man and his dog. The manager from fucking, I don't know, a restaurant being linked with a job. Everyone's gonna be, because they're gonna jump on it. It's engagement. That they're just gonna type names in and throw them out there. You know, as fans, because we've experienced this before, you can navigate through the storm, you can navigate through the bullshit, and know the legit news from your Romanos and your Ornsteins and these kind of guys. So that won't confuse me, and we definitely won't confuse it on this channel. Random guy with a super chat saying, why didn't they sack him in the summer? Because they was torn, weren't they? He won the FA Cup. A lot of fans were behind him. You know, beating Man City in the final, I know people say, and there was a lot of people in the chat right now who was like, I would still have sacked him, and I get it. I completely understand it. But me and you, when it got announced, was on here, and we was like, we're happy because he just beat the best team in the world, who's our Manchester rivals, in an FA Cup final.
Tactically outthought them. Yeah.
And the performance was really good. So seeing that in isolation, I know the season before was a horror show, especially with the injuries and stuff, but seeing that in isolation, it's like, if we can replicate that, and there's something in it, you know, the players are happy, the manager looks happy. We just won a big trophy with an FA Cup, which a lot of teams didn't do last year. There was something there in it. So maybe INEOS was like, we haven't got the manager that we want right now. So they extended it. You could see straight off the bat, couldn't you? Like, they didn't want to give him a big contract. It was like, no, we'll extend it and we'll see how it goes.
They wanted to remove all that power that he has in his current contract, and they couldn't do it. And they knew they couldn't let him go into his last year. So they had to do something, and that was the extent. Like, is if they had they agreed that contract where they took all that power away from him, they then would have done a 3-year deal, I imagine. But they couldn't do that, so that's what they got. And I think again, the man they wanted is probably not available, or they probably reached out to people, as we saw, couldn't agree terms with Tuchel. Interviewed a different bunch of people. Probably, I think they were turned down by Sebastian Hoeneß as well. So all these different people that they reached out to, and they were either rebuffed or they couldn't come to an agreement. So the lack of options it was Ten Hag or who? Like, who'd you go get? Do you know what I mean? Who'd you go get? So that's the thing we did. Also, like you said, the fan sentiment was behind him. And I don't think it's so early on in their ownership of this club, they didn't want to make a major unpopular decision. I think they wanted to continue that good feeling, and unfortunately, it's come back to bite him on the ass.
Yeah, look, I hate to kind of round it off with this, but like I said before, we are currently 14th in the league. Only Leicester, Everton, Palace, Ipswich, Wolves, and Southampton have had a worse season than us so far, and we're 25% of the way through. We're on -3 goal difference. We've got 11 points, and we've literally won 3 games, and we've just been
all those teams are relegation candidates as well.
Exactly. So, is it a surprise? It's not a surprise in the sense of why he's been sacked. It's been a surprise, like you said, the timing in it of it. I thought they'd wait until at least the next international break, but having watched that, maybe they was just like, look, okay, so we can't. We're 14th in the league, man. This is embarrassing on United. These guys have come in as the sport ultra, excuse me, sporting professionals, and they've done extremely well in all the other fields.
Yep.
Sailing, cycling, these kind of things. They've done really, really well. But football's a different beast, man, and especially Man United. You can come in and have these thoughts of sporting professionals. It's difficult. Difficult.
I think league position is terrible. But on the pitch performances are terrible as well. So it's not even like on the pitch where you would look good and you're like, okay, the luck's not gone our way, VAR and injuries and stuff. The performance has been terrible. Like, none of the performances, like what, a half against Crystal Palace and a half against West Ham. Like, it's just not good enough. Like, performances haven't been there. And I think he probably would have got a bit more leeway in terms of his league position had the performances been good, but they haven't been. And if you two things you've got to do. Results are number one. If you're not getting results, your performances need to be tip top. You need to be up there. And he's not doing either. He's not getting results, and the performances aren't good. At the end of the day, you only could go so long before you end up losing your job as a manager.
Can you just go to the comments again, please, Sam? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me pull them up.
Hello.
Let's have a gander.
You okay?
pop out. There we go.
Ah,
Aaron
yeah.
Gregory. We've got better sources than a journalist from Goal. I agree, mate. It's fucking stupid. But read it out.
To what, sorry?
Excuse me. Marco Rose from Leipzig would be a good shout.
Yeah.
Xavi, Keane,
Yeah,
and Nicky
of course.
Butt till the end of the season. Jesus Christ. I think
All right,
Roy
thank
Keane
you.
might kill somebody. I think they might murder somebody in the dressing room. David Moyes was looking for a job. You don't want him back at West Ham, Aaron? I mean, he might be back at West Ham at some point, like you predicted. Random guy. There's no way INEOS thought he would start cooking the Prem, especially after the season we had last year. Maybe, maybe not. Footy edits caught me off so off guard. Yeah, same as me, mate. I just literally like been I've been sat here like just chilling out and stuff, and then this news thing I have to jump on a show. So yeah. Yeah.
Shit.
But yeah, get the last couple of comments, and then we'll wrap up the show. Should get Giggs, Cara, Ollie, and Ruud back in. He'll be called interim manager FC. Fucking hell. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. Somebody you never should be in the club. Nick getting all his phone calls. He's officially ITK. Yeah, I think we'll call it at that. We'll call it at that now. Thank you guys for joining us. If anything else pops off, we will be live again. And we appreciate your support, and we appreciate everything that you've been coming to us with your chats, your comments, and stuff like that. Leave a like, leave a comment, follow all our socials. Keep it up to date with all the latest news, and we'll see you tomorrow.